Thanks in large part to the work of Judicial Watch, a nonpartisan government watchdog organization, details of the operation to disrupt the 2016 Trump campaign are emerging. The unfolding scandal has been dubbed Spygate. It was carried out by the Obama Department of Justice. When, despite Spygate, Mr. Trump won the presidency, it segued into an ongoing soft coup d'etat operation that continues to this day to attempt to override the election. The matter has not attracted conspicuous mainstream media coverage, although those familiar with the investigation say its brazenness and scope transcend any previous high-level government scandal in our country. Today on Connecticut Yankee Sanity, we'll recap what's known about it so far and contrast it with two prior scandals of historic importance. The first was Teapot Dome, which is a rock formation in Wyoming with oil under it. The scandal occurred during the administration of Warren G. Harding, and by our standards was a penny ante affair. Harding had appointed Senator Albert B. Fall of New Mexico as Secretary of the Interior. In 1921, Fall awarded oil and gas leases to two private businessmen without putting them out for public bid. The awards generated controversy and suspicion that led to congressional hearings in late 1923. Fall, it was discovered, had received $400,000 in cash gifts and loans from the two lessees. In 1929, he was convicted of accepting bribes and went to jail. To add to his woes, after he got out, one of the complicit lessees foreclosed the mortgage he had given him on his New Mexico ranch. Sometimes things just don't work out. 50 years later, on June 17, 1972, as every schoolchild knows, a break-in was staged at the Democratic Party headquarters in the Watergate apartment complex in Washington, D.C., to install a microphone to eavesdrop on the presidential campaign of George McGovern. The five intruders, who were later known as the Watergate Plumbers, carried it out in a slipshod manner. They were caught red-handed. Lickety-split, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, two Washington Post reporters destined for fame back when the press still did its job as the Fourth Estate, made the story virtually their life's work. They linked one of the plumbers, James McCord, to the Nixon campaign. Mr. Nixon, who didn't scruple to go after his political enemies by fair means or foul, remarked to an aide that nothing would come of the story, and nothing did come of it, at least not right away. Nixon won re-election in a landslide. But no sooner had he settled into his second administration than the story began swelling up like a bloated corpse. Try as he might, he couldn't get rid of it or avoid the stench. In January 1973, the plumbers were convicted and sent to prison. Despite extraordinary and prolonged presidential obstruction, Nixon's complicity was confirmed, and articles of impeachment were drafted. When Hugh Scott, the Senate Minority Leader, told Nixon he could muster no more than 10 votes in his favor, which meant certain conviction and removal from office, Nixon resigned, the only U.S. president to do so. Spygate is taking shape as an operation that used federal government resources to discredit a 2016 presidential candidate and throw the election. The investigation into it, as mentioned, has yet to top the mainstream media's to-do list. Apparently no Woodwards or Bernsteins this time around. With difficulty, Judicial Watch, by means of persistence and Freedom of Information Act lawsuits, has pried loose pertinent government records. Here's what they found out. The DNC, through its legal counsel, Perkins Coie, paid Fusion GPS, a DC-based research and intelligence gathering firm, to do opposition research on the Trump campaign. Working with Christopher Steele, a discredited former British MI6 operative and committed anti-Trumper with Kremlin contacts, they came up with the so-called Trump-Russia dossier. Steele, who was a consultant to the FBI before press leaks got him fired, nevertheless maintained an open line of communication with Bruce Orr, a senior FBI official. Mr. Orr's wife, Nellie, worked for Fusion GPS and was the liaison with Steele. The dossier he created, essentially an exercise in creative writing, purported to document disreputable behavior by Mr. Trump in Moscow. The conflicts of interest, as well as the deceit, will be obvious to the viewer. Mr. Orr passed the dossier along to FBI Director James Comey, cautioning him that it was unverified. So presumably Mr. Comey knew it was a piece of opposition research paid for by the Clinton campaign. These two facts, however, were either omitted, overlooked, or somehow muddled when the dossier was presented to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to obtain a warrant. The court, which has a reputation for being a rubber stamp operation, authorized the FBI to spy on U.S. citizen Carter Page, who was a member of the Trump campaign. That is, the FBI used Page to get to Mr. Trump. Some viewers will recall candidate Trump's mentioning that he believed he was being spied on. He was laughed at and ridiculed. The warrant was renewed 3 times on the strength of the same spurious document. After Mr. Trump, as is his irritating habit, checkmated the Dems and won the election, Spygate metamorphosed into the coup d'etat attempt. Internal communications between FBI officials obtained by Judicial Watch speak of an insurance policy to thwart Mr. Trump on the outside chance that he beat the anointed Mrs. Clinton. One document contains a statement that President Obama wanted to be kept informed. The Mueller investigation ensued and flopped after 30 months and $30 million in taxpayer funds, and now we're back to the House Democrats calling for impeachment, the same squawk they were raising before Mr. Trump had even taken the oath of office. Attorney General William Barr has begun investigating all of this. Conspiring to topple a president of the United States after first attempting to wreck his election campaign is scarcely an image builder for the DOJ, whose reputation the Attorney General hopes to restore. Criminal referrals have been made on several officials involved, and more are sure to come, followed by indictments and, we assume, convictions. The Watergate break-in resulted in 69 government officials being charged. 48 were convicted, including the Attorney General John Mitchell, who went to jail along with dozens of others. The disgraced Richard Nixon was named as an unindicted co-conspirator, but not prosecuted. If we held a seance to communicate with him in his grave, he'd probably complain of flashback nightmares prompted by word reaching him in the spirit world of a certain Democratic successor now retired in Hawaii. The successor, at least, had better timing and was well out of office when the foul deeds on his watch began to surface. Whether he's called to account as Mr. Nixon was, we'll have to see. Thanks for watching. Be sure to click like and subscribe to support the channel, and pass the link along. We'll see you back here next time.